Gwen Stefani actually never being cool is a newer idea I've been faced to reckon with. I recently made a video about how Gwen Stefani became so uncool, basically covering her discography and how it became a shell of itself after her debut album, and how she's melded into the world of Blake Shelton. And I agree with everything I said. However, there are some viewers that expanded upon Gwen's uncoolness in the comments, and given that I mostly kept it to the music, there are some things that I didn't touch upon that I think are definitely worthy of attention, and maybe they offer a new perspective not only to other people, but myself as well. Being cool to me is not about being young. Being cool as an artist in my eyes is about never losing your pulse in your artistry, or at least still having the balls to try to keep the pulse alive. Gwen Stefani was a great eccentric of her era. Now her music is completely nondescript. That to me is not cool. But now that I've gotten that out the way to define a clearer picture of what I consider cool, let's talk about the thought-provoking beings that gave more context to Gwen now becoming uncool. I've been so disappointed by her new music, but honestly maybe it's just been stuck in the past. I think we thought Lamb was her personality, but it was just her experimenting with new sounds and songwriters, so we expected more of the same. But as she changed collaborators, so did her music change. She's not as unique as we thought she was. I am a huge Gwen Stefani fan, mostly because even though I didn't always enjoy her music, I thought it was fascinating that she looked natural in every genre or landscape that she was dropped into. I thought it was such a cool thing to be that versatile. But when you put it this way, I actually think the opposite is true in a sentence. Like, it's not that she is incredibly diverse and versatile, I think it just means that she is indeed a blank slate. So yes, she can fit in anywhere, because she actually is sort of a blank canvas. I don't think that music moves her anymore, and it's not surprising because she admitted she found it incredibly early with No Doubt. There was never much work that went into trying to make it, and once they did, the rest was history. Without a clear perspective on her brand, music, persona, you just wonder who she is, and does she even stand for anything? For example, Madonna may change sonically and visually, but the messaging stays more consistent. With Gwen, it all feels desperate, lost, inauthentic, and very uncool. But God, I loved her music back in the day. I think she was best as a part of No Doubt. One of the reasons is her not being solely responsible for the projects. Guys in the band made music, contributed largely to all decisions, and it worked great. Gwen had her place and it worked for her. When she went solo, she probably rode on the No Doubt experience for some time, until she lost good ideas, and that's where she began going downhill, slowly to the point that she assimilates Blake's style, and milks their relationship for her solo career progress to the point of annoyance. Now put all of these comments together because they express similar sentiments of Gwen as an artist, and how she's metamorphosized more so due to the people around her, rather than a driving artistic expression. It's something I never really thought about, but I guess definitely subconsciously felt. Maybe Gwen wasn't genuinely interesting or as genuinely eccentric as her music led on, but it was still good music. Personally, I am more of a fan of No Doubt more than Gwen Stefani as a solo artist. No Doubt was just more consistent. Also, Rocksteady feels like Gwen's first real solo album in its essence. The fact that Gwen was able to meld into so many different styles could very likely be attributed to her being a blank slate. That's not to say that Gwen Stefani has no involvement. We know she's written songs, and her perspective really shaped the best work of No Doubt. But more so that it's people around her that made her appear more eccentric than Gwen actually being that eccentric. All things considered, it was still great pop music regardless. The next few comments talk more about Gwen's overall public persona, some of her values, and how much of her career is indebted to other cultures. As someone who's been alive for most of Gwen's career, I've never thought of her as cool, nor all that edgy. I recall early interviews where she always said she just fell into the band, swept up in what her brother and the boys around her were doing. Outside her music videos, she seemed bubbly and sweet, and a personality without distinction. But when she talks about music, she just seemed to be riding the wave, enjoying herself. She never seemed passionate about the craft itself like her contemporaries. I'm not surprised by her trajectory at all. Madonna remains the edgiest pop star we have. LOL, I'm not kidding. Something this video left out is that some, like me, considered it uncool to engage in the depiction of Native Americans looking hot the original video, and the fetishization of Japanese culture eventually felt a bit odd to many. Gwen is from Orange County. Everything is expected. Believe me, I lived there. I'm old enough to have grown up with her music, so I can tell you it's much simpler. Gwen is and always has been a culture vulture, and she ran out of groups to steal from. It was cool because someone else did it better. The last thing she has left is country, and there are great country pop acts. There's money to be made. Her entire career was rooted in cultural appropriation. This is why we keep telling people that cultural appropriation is very racism coded. It takes decades of when they show themselves to be racist, then people are confused how the script was flipped. It wasn't flipped. They were like that all along. Now I know cultural appropriation is a very divisive subject, but Gwen Stefani, as much as I love some of her music, is one of those examples that are just undeniable. She did pillage from other cultures in such an abrasive way, and everything certainly hasn't aged well. And given that this type of marketing has fallen out of favor significantly, it makes me wonder how much of the things that people viewed as Gwen's eccentricities and X Factor was just a novelty of a white girl heavily pillaging from other cultures. And Gwen also had the privilege of being able to seamlessly move through other styles at a high commercial level without being pigeonholed. I think she does have some examples that can be considered cultural appreciation, as they say, like the Grammy Award-winning single Underneath It All released in 2002. She actually brought in the people from the culture on the song. It's produced by legendary reggae production duo Sly and Robbie and features legendary Jamaican artist Lady Saw. And no one is used as a prop in the video, it just feels like a genuine homage to reggae. There's nothing wrong with embracing different cultural sonic styles or fashion, but as the saying goes, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Her Harajuku Girls era has been a major discussion, mostly for how they were utilized. They were a very strong marketing aspect of her debut album. Many people took issue that they were just silent and mostly felt like props. Her debut album is also literally filled with name drops about the Harajuku Girls, which sometimes just feels oddly misplaced, like on What You Waiting For, which is just one of my top favorite Gwen songs, but I always felt the bridge felt so random and out of place on a song that's about career procrastination. Also, another major thing, according to Tokyo Fashion and documents, is that Gwen Stefani tried to claim Harajuku as Gwen's brand. Allegedly trying to claim ownership within a culture that is not yours is insane. Trying to trademark Harajuku. Gwen's response is mostly just shrug it off. If people are going to criticize me for being a fan of something beautiful and sharing that, then I just think that doesn't feel right. I think it was a beautiful time of creativity, a time of the ping pong match between Harajuku culture and American culture. It should be okay to be inspired by other cultures, because if we're not allowed, then that's dividing people, right? Is it really creativity if you're just pillaging ideas? Also, the dividing people angle is just a cheap cop-out. As reported by Allure, during our interview, Stefani asserted twice that she was Japanese, and once that she was a little bit of an Orange County girl, a little bit of Japanese girl, and a little bit of an English girl. Once again, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And Gwen seems to be operating from a place of defense rather than actually taking it in. And it's easy for her to do so because she doesn't have to face the same obstacles that minorities do. With all that said, Gwen's artistry is certainly heavily indebted to a lot of different cultures. And I think the worst part is, some of those aspects really haven't aged well at all. The last comment I want to spotlight made some really great points. Many of her lyrics going all the way back to her earlier No Doubt years express a longing for conservatism. The epic anthem Just a Girl only distracted from this. Her cultural appropriation was always weaved together with her style, and it only got bolder and bolder as the years went on. Burgeoning social consciousness of the audience no longer permits this. The combination of her focus on becoming established in the fashion industry, coupled with her great failure there, really knocked the confidence out of her, I think. I think these things all combined with the points you make really paint a picture of traditional white feminism that likes to trade in their wings for an apron, after a few wild youthful years, to settle into who they really are, underneath it all. What an eloquent, thought-provoking comment. I want to say that personally, I was never under the impression that Gwen was some radical progressive. My focus was just on her music becoming bland and nondescript. For instance, the song where she yearns for a simple kind of life is beautifully produced and performed. That aspect is lost in her current music. But if not in totality, I think all these comments have some air of truth to them, and are very well put. I think these perspectives were very worthy of discussion. For me, Gwen Stefani's coolness never lied with her personal ideologies, but within her style, brazenness, emotional honesty, and a hot streak of quality and sometimes very eccentric pop music. The fact that Gwen Stefani wants to live on a ranch with her hillbilly does not matter to me. or even the fact that she made a more mature record, or a milder record sonically. It's the fact that she was at one point one of the most identifiable pop stars on radio. Now she sounds completely nondescript. And there are still many older women producing some killer tracks, especially in the direction that Gwen is going. Miranda Lambert, anyone? Oh yes, Miss If I Was a Cowboy I'd Be Wild and Free, The Chicks, Alanis, Carrie Underwood, Bonnie Raitt, and then the pop side we can speak to people like Cher, Madonna, R.I.P. the great Tina Turner, Mariah Carey. Caution was an amazing album, Janet Jackson. I'm not even saying that these artists' most recent work are just as great as their career-defining work, but they still have a very palpable sense of self, which I just can't say for Gwen's most recent work. And that to me is what really made her uncool, coupled with some of her celeb ventures. But yeah, that about concludes my thoughts. Let me know if I should make more videos like this, widening the conversation with you guys' comments, because it was really enjoyable to hear all these nuanced and thoughtful takes, and that to me is what content creation is all about, having genuine discussions. Well, let me know what you think about Gwen's trajectory again down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.